Hello! Welcome to the JustCast. Today I'm here with Trick. Go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
Yeah. Today we got something special, something that is extremely controversial and gonna get everyone cancelled.
Depends on your audience, I suppose.
I've decided I'm pre-canceling us for opinions on adaptations.
I guess there is some pretty cancelable opinions on these.
It's true. Great way to start it off, right? You will
Mhm.
be cancelled. You do not have a choice. What's the worst one?
My least favorite, especially in the books to movies category, would be Inkheart. That was a
Oh.
that was one I hated so much. I watched it maybe oh god, I feel like it was how long ago did that movie come out? I watched it when it came out as I was so excited. That was a book that I really liked as a kid, and then they spoiled the main secret of the story in the first 5 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, oh no."
See, I've never seen it. I've never watched it, but I did read the book as a part of my book club when I was in school.
See, I won't explain what they spoiled because otherwise I'm just going to spoil it for your
Oh,
audience.
you can spoil it.
But
That came out
I
years
can?
ago. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Fair enough. The main thing about the story is that this girl's going on this adventure trying to find her dad, and she doesn't know why all these things are happening, right? The reason why they're happening is she finds out about her dad being a silver tongue.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the movie, you're just kind of watching this person fumble about the universe when you know what's wrong with it. And so it just kind of feels like someone wanted to put all of their characters in a little theater box and have them interact rather than actually tell a story, which stunk.
They kind of lost the plot on that one. I remember the book being pretty decent. Like it wasn't my cup of tea, but I can definitely remember a lot of hype about it.
Yeah. And I think a book that did it better, but I have no idea because I sadly did not read the book. I just saw the movie. Seems to be something like Artemis Fowl, which is
Yeah.
almost the exact same story except with a boy and the family's rich.
I feel like there was a lot of child adventurer time where it's like you've got to
Hmm.
save the world from the big bad. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of those did very well, but they didn't translate well to theaters.
And I think that was just that time that they didn't translate it well because it got better, especially recently with
Yeah.
Uglies. I saw that movie and it was actually really good.
Oh, this is so bad.
You can disagree
I
if you want.
loved the Ugly series. It is one of my favorite series of all time. I still reference it to this day with my other friends who have read it. I literally cannot stand the main actress who they cast.
That is fair. The casting was not what I was expecting. Shay was on point. The rest of
Yeah, I was like, I saw the casting and I literally was like, this is one of my favorite books. And I can't even look at the cast because all I can see in my brain is that horrible, oh my god, what is it? It's the camera. They do this like slow-mo camera on the red carpet. All I can do is see that horrible camera moment with the thumbs up, and that is the only thing I can picture in my mind. I can't do it. I can't watch that movie.
I don't know if she's been in anything else that I have seen personally.
I try to avoid her whenever I try to avoid a lot of big names like that just because it kind of ruins the immersion for me. It's kind of like now, especially if I see anything with like Jennifer Lawrence in it, to me that's always going to be the same person across in the hall. I feel the same
That's
way
fair.
about like The Rock. That's The Rock. That's Jack
the
Black.
The Rock, Jack Black, that guy that's afraid of animals. Oh my god, I'm forgetting
Yeah.
his name. I just know he's afraid of animals, and he happens to be in almost every media that's requiring him to interact with animals. The directors hate him.
Yeah, it's like once you've done enough movies and they like use you as the face of those movies, I this sounds terrible, okay? But I think that if you are a main character in like a huge franchise movie or series in general, please do not take another main character role. I can't do it. Take like anything else. You've had your moment. Give it to someone else. I don't need to see Nick Cage in another movie.
With movies like FNAF, clearly it's not book to movie, it's game to movie. I've noticed in games to movies, more so than books to movies, games to movies are doing fan service where they bring in like references or people who are big parts of the community to be part of that movie. What's your thoughts on that? Like seeing the Technoblade reference in the Minecraft movie.
I love a good cameo. I love a good cameo because it's a cameo. So when it comes to things like that, people who have shown that they love the franchise or movie, book, whatever, there's a
Mhm.
media form that allows them to be a part of that. I love that because these are the people that deserve to be in on the project.
Well, of course, probably with our current modern audience, like the Technoblade reference in Minecraft was really sweet of them to do. But also, like, continuing to render Stan Lee into all the Marvel movies is very nice, but also I feel like it's a controversial topic because I mean, like,
They can't consent to it. When it comes to that kind of thing, as long as they have permission from the family, I think it's fine. Technoblade specifically, his dad is all for that.
oh,
Technoblade's
of
dad
course.
is like a huge media guy. Like, he's making content. He wants his kid to,
Hmm.
you know, live on through media. Obviously, Technoblade made Death's merch, so I think that he's gonna be okay with it.
That was kind of startling to see.
For more context for the audience, Trick and I were on vacation together when we got the news about Technoblade, so it's like
Mhm.
horrific death video. Hey, check out my merch.
Just games to movies in general, I think, are becoming a very interesting topic, both for good and bad reasons. Like
Yeah.
good being, of course, Iron Lung, which I'm sure you can talk in length about, and
Oh
then
yes.
controversial being like Mario right now, like Super Mario Galaxy, the movie. I have complaints, but I know it's not out
Yeah.
yet, so.
I've heard terrible things about that movie. I've heard like some real bad stuff to the point where it's like I've been avoiding it like the plague because I'm like normally I would love to go watch a video game to a movie or video game
Mhm.
to series, anything like that. Like obviously, like you said, Iron Lung. I went and watched it twice. It's just that good. Like FNAF, Minecraft movies, stuff like that. Like that's all stuff I'm all for. However, I don't think there's a good way to do a Mario movie.
The whole thing with the previous Mario movie being as terrible as it was, the live action one, the animated one, I watched the first one and it wasn't bad. I liked the references, but it was really startling to see a lot of the voice acting. Like Mario, of course, voiced the way he was is just, kind of odd choice,
It's bad.
especially when they make a joke about it.
Recently, and by recently, I mean not so recently, and in the future, Sunrise on the Reaping comes out this year.
I do not know what that is. What is that?
Sunrise on the Reaping is the fifth book in the Hunger Games series.
Oh, right.
And if they mess this up, I am going to go to Hollywood or wherever this was produced, and I will personally. No, can't say that.
Yeah.
What's the. I will make
I think
sure
you're
that
too
both
friendly.
sides of the producer's pillow is warm for the rest of their lives.
See, I'm actually really surprised that that second series of books didn't become a TV series and instead were movies.
I can understand it for these two books. I have read one of them because I refuse to read of Songbirds and Snakes because I hate it. Like, it
Fair.
was a well made movie. It was well made, but I literally cannot stand the plot line or the story that goes with it. Sunrise on the Reaping was phenomenal, and if they mess this up, I will have words.
Book series having a prequel that becomes something else or having any sort of like origin story and that gets turned into some sort of media is always been really interesting in how media tries to do it. I can't think of a book one off the top of my head that I can think of. I can think of when it comes to those kind of series like Queen Charlotte's kind of the prequel story to
For
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton, yeah.
Hmm. which honestly, I liked that series almost more than I liked Bridgerton.
I've watched half of the Queen Charlotte series. I just couldn't get into it. And I've watched all of Bridgerton.
I wanted more, but that I understand that there isn't more. They talk about, or they introduce the queen like she's having to make sure that her kids all marry, and then doesn't get to that point. We just see her origin story.
I think it would have been a little bit better if they had started off the Queen Charlotte series at a later point. I think part of why I couldn't get into it is it felt very dragged out for no reason. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around the relevance of where they started with that. I feel like it would have been better if it was like a midlife crisis kind of deal.
I wanted it to be a more of two parallel stories kind of situation. Or they just stick into one timeline and then
Yeah.
had like minor flashbacks. I wish there was more because I wanted them to go into more detail and not like rush it. It feels like it was rushed so that they could get money to make more of the series, if that's what it sounds, if that makes sense.
That's how I feel about the newest season of Bridgerton. Have you seen the newest season yet?
I have. I actually luckily just finished that.
Yeah, that was just a direct knockoff of Cinderella. Spoiler alert.
Yes. No, that's what I agree. It's
It sucked.
Well, I started watching the series and someone just said, "Oh, it's just Cinderella. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, literally
Down to the
down
color
to
silver.
yeah.
Oh,
The silver, the shoe, like, oh my god, it was so bad.
and it's just sitting there, just staring at the screen the whole time. All the problems solved if characters just communicate. Cannot be the villain of the story again.
I'm just like, I'm watching this, and the resolution for it is like, wow, this is going to blow up in everyone's faces so badly.
Yeah.
This was terrible. Also, what they did to what his name was John, right? What they did to John, all right? Messed up.
Oh yeah, that was so. What do they call it? Anticlimactic? Not the right word, but
Anticlimactic. No, that's also not right.
Anticlimactic.
I'm having a stroke about it. Literally. Literally.
It was sad. I'm just like, all right, that's just gonna happen. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfair, but
like, it does happen, and I see the build-up for it, but it was like, was that necessary? Was that really? Did you really need to do that?
one category of book to movie type things that I think is not talked about enough, and I said this kind of before we started chatting, is the first time failure, second time series movies, where the book gets a movie and the movie doesn't go as well as they want it, so they make a series out of it.
Cough, cough, Shadowhunters, cough, cough.
Yes, I was gonna say City of Bones, Shadowhunters is one of the biggest examples I think of that one. A lesser known one would be the series of unfortunate events.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
They did pretty good with. Personally, I think they did pretty good with both of them. I mean, trying to cram an entire 12 book series in one movie was ambitious for them to try doing in the first place.
They did pretty well when it came to the movie. I'm a big fan of the series. Yeah. I love how they handled the series. That is one of my favorites. I
agree as well. I think they ended up switching that up and going into the series, and the series was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The movie wasn't half bad, but the series is great.
I still can't look at Horseradish.
One series that I think flew completely under everyone's radars, and correct me if I'm wrong, mostly because even I'm trying to find the series again, and because I want to watch it, I didn't get to finish watching it when I found it, was the His Dark Materials series.
Okay, yeah.
AKA The Golden Compass.
Yeah, I've read The Golden Compass. I've watched The Golden Compass. I have not seen the series.
The series, so I read The Golden Compass, and that was one of my favorite books. I had a lot of favorite books, but that was definitely in my top sections. When it comes to the His Dark Materials series, I think they did a pretty good job with that.
But I feel like a lot of series are more edgy now, too, because they know what they can get away with. I feel like TV has gotten a lot darker.
TV has both gotten a lot darker and as well has gotten a lot more conservative at the same time.
Which is weird in combination, because you would think that it would, like, go in either direction, but it doesn't.
I think it has a lot to do with targeted audience. You would put out a rated M or rated PG-13 movie, and you could expect that, yeah, okay, some kids are going to sneak into this movie, but not everyone. Now, it's become a you don't know if a child's going to end up watching this kind of thing. And if a
Streaming.
child's going to watch this and someone's going to have a problem with it, you still have to deal with the consequences despite the fact you put a rating on it. Or like the other topic, if people don't understand that PG doesn't mean safe for everybody, it means parental guidance.
Yep.
It means, yeah, you can attend this theater, but that doesn't mean it's not going to have some questionable topics.
I'm going to point at the screen for this. Nobody can see me pointing at the screen, but I'm pointing at the screen. Parents are responsible for the media that their children consume. That is not the responsibility of the people making the media.
This is veering off adaptations, but for example, we want to talk about those kinds of things. It'd be the big name indie titles right now, like Has Been Hotel.
Yep.
It'd be Digital Circus, Murder Drones, all of those animated series that are based off of something else. Adults that grew up with cartoons or adults that grew up with digital media now are consuming adult digital media, and adults that have kids aren't quite comprehending that animated series aren't always for kids because they don't have the same art style that old gritty adult cartoons used to have. Like if you were to talk about The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad, I think is that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the series very well.
American
They all
Dad, The Cleveland Show, yeah.
They all had a very similar gritty art style that came with it being an adult cartoon. Now, media is so diverse that the crazy looking characters of Has Been Hotel, you can't quite tell if it's adult or not because it is so colorful, so bold, so on. But it is labeled as adult. It's labeled as more mature audience. I mean, I think it's PG-13 except for the one episode that's PG-16 or something like that. But yeah, the art styles aren't distinctive of what kind of media can be consumed anymore. Like if we go back to the games versus movies things, yeah, the Mario movie probably, if it's put out correctly, Mario movie is going to be aimed for kids. Iron Lung, on the other hand, yeah, it's a video game movie. Yeah, it's put out by a YouTube streamer. That's a lot darker.
I'm still very disappointed by the fact that the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was made for children, because the main audience for Five Nights at Freddy's should have all been out of high school by now.
Like retro things, like some of the kids don't understand how old a lot of this media is, and some of the parents don't realize it either.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with things like FNAF. And then we quoted the other series of games, like games to TV series, like Arcane. That League of Legends audience, it generally is typically older, but there's also a lot of younger kids that are getting into that too.
Genuinely, when I see ratings for any kind of adaptation like that, I think that the rating for the movie or series should always be the same or higher than the original media, depending on how it's interpreted, because that is the audience you're trying to cater to. So if you have something that is PG, there is no reason that the adaptation should not also be PG. The same goes, like, if this is an R-rated video game, then your movie needs to be R-rated.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to make a young adult book and then you're going to say it's targeted towards infants.
Yeah, it's just such a strange thing. And I noticed that they did that a lot recently with some of the book series I was reading. I've seen a lot of books, like the longer the series goes on, they have taken the entire series out of the young adult section and moved it to the adult section. Like, this has been an ongoing thing. I've watched this happen quite a few times. Because as soon as one of those books treads into a different territory, they have to move the entire series.
And I think that they definitely need to do the same thing with movies.
Absolutely. Exactly.
I hate to use Has Been Hotel again as an example, but if one episode out of the entire series is a higher age rating than the others, the series needs to change. Yep. No one's going to be like, all right, I'm going to watch episode 1, 2, 4, 7. Like, that's not how you watch a series.
And somewhere in there's like an argument for like warning labels, whatever they're called on that. Like the disclaimer, warning label, whatever. If you are going into something and you would like to watch something that you know has a topic in it that is either off limits for the age group that you're in, or if it's something that's very triggering to someone, you are responsible for the outcome of watching that series.
One example that I could think of, and this is something I wanted to talk about, is I think a lot of that type of issue comes with what I've been calling the repeating fairy tale trope. Because fairy tales have been with us as a human race for ages now. It gets told in a different variety of ways. One culture will tell it different from another culture, and so on and so forth, moving on. But we tried to take that exact same retelling issue and put it into a movie format, and people aren't anticipating that the story changes. So, like, for example, Snow White. Disney's original animated Snow White is different from the recent movie Snow White, different from Snow White and the Huntsman, different from Mirror Mirror, which is also a Snow White rendition that Disney put out, different from Red Shoes, which is a very funny animated movie that really flopped in Asian countries. It's a different conversation topic. They're all different retellings of the exact same fairy tale, kind of back to the Bridgerton and Cinderella situation.
Yep.
They are all targeted towards different audiences. They're going to offend and or not be appropriate for different people.
I think a great example for a lot of this stuff is, like you said, a lot of the fairy tales. Even though the original fairy tales, like, you go back to Grimm fairy tales, those ones specifically, those are all incredibly dark. Like,
oh yeah,
horrifically so. I think the Grimm Variations, the anime series, does a great job at showing just how incredibly dark those things are. It is one of my favorite interpretations of those because it is done in a modern way that is extremely well thought out. But
exactly.
You take this media, and I've seen this a lot recently with like new series of cartoons, especially. Teen Titans is a great example of this. You take something that starts off really, really dark and you lighten it and lighten it and lighten it until what you are left with is this content that nobody wants to watch because there's nothing in it. You've just stripped it to its bare bones and then spat it back out so that you can appeal to a younger audience because for some reason people think that going in that direction is better.
I have a hard part with that because I feel like some of that is laziness to the writers.
There's some really great kids shows that to this day I will still watch. This is coming from me, who I definitely was not the target audience for a lot of the stuff I used to watch as a kid. But I think that's why things like Looney Tunes was always very popular, because while there was a lot of it that was not necessarily appropriate for children, it is a product of the time, as many people would say. Not, not excusing some of the stuff that's in it, but you get what I mean.
Like, I think back to Woody's comment at Buzz in Toy Story of, the word I'm looking for, I cannot say, because there are preschool toys present.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, it's like, oh, haha, he's going to make an insult at him, probably. But they don't know what the insult's going to be. Adults are like, oh my gosh, he's going to say a curse.
People kind of miss the mark a lot now when they make something that is all ages, all audiences. I feel like a lot of the time now people can't really comprehend what that is. It's not this needs to be appropriate to children. It's more of this needs to be appealing to adults so that they will let their children also watch it.
And I sadly see that when it comes to a lot of the live action remakes, so the live action adaptations of a lot of the movies into a secondary movie. This is a great parallel, and people always talk about this, between How to Train Your Dragon live adaptation and the Lilo and Stitch live adaptation.
I have had that conversation with one of my friends who is a huge fan of How to Train Your Dragon. Like, they are absolutely head over heels in love with that movie. Anyone who dares damage that movie's reputation will be fought in hand-to-hand combat. And I've seen the Lilo and Stitch, the live action. I could not make it through it because it is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
I had a talk also recently with someone specifically about the Lilo and Stitch movie, and it's the fact that it lost its heart. the whole point of the movie, and Stitch says this the whole time, is Ohana means family. Family means no one's left behind, right? The movie dropped that completely to try to appeal to a modern audience, and therefore lost the movie's original heart. Also forgot a lot of the reason for characters' actions. That the reason at the beginning that Lilo is so obsessed and so upset that she could not feed Pudge the fish the sandwich, because, quote unquote, the fish controls the weather, is because her parents died in a car crash during a rainy storm. I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but that was a running theory that the fandom had for a long time, because clearly Lilo and Nani are both without their parents for whatever reason. They don't have her actions anymore showing that she loves life and wants to make sure that everyone's safe, but also that she can protect her own. And she's fine to embrace the weird, and she's also afraid of death, which sounds really, really out there and philosophical for a Lilo and Stitch movie. But there is presence of that in the undertones, in the animation, just in the background when you see the animation, the different settings, or the things that she's taking pictures of, or the things around her room, the books on her bookshelf. Like, all of those things have that little bit of heart, that there is thought put into this character and what she would have in her room. The live action remake, they didn't have any of that for the character. There was just Lilo is a weird girl and can't fit in. You're a quirky, relatable main character.
And I don't mind being like having Lilo a little less morbid because it is actually played by a child. And there's a whole rant I could go on about putting child actors in appropriate media. There's a whole thing I could do with that. However, at the end of the day, it's like I don't mind her being a little bit softer when it comes to a lot of the weird stuff. However, there needs to be a character underneath that. A character with complex feelings and emotions that may not make sense to the rest of the world, but they need to make sense to the audience and her. And when you strip that, it doesn't work. Especially with the plot that they did. The insane plot that didn't make any sense, where they literally changed everything so that it didn't make sense.
I'm not defending this movie, and I don't want to. But the only thing in this movie that I can understand the changes they made is because they were trying to appeal to the modern audience of exactly the time the movie's coming out. Like a small, maybe 3 to 5 year span of, hey, lots of people are experiencing this right now. We need to make the movie relatable for right now. And that's, I think, what damaged the movie a lot. It made assumptions about the economic culture and climate and how that affects certain people, and especially affects certain cultures.
Freaking Hollywood has no legs to stand on when it comes to that kind of thing. Like, that is absolutely not the time or place to be making those.
If it is going to make those calls, then it needs to be done right.
Tastefully.
And not in a live action remake of a child's show. Like, there's that other movie, oh, I forgot the name of it, that came out a couple years ago prior to that, where it actually was trying to say a scary topic. It was on a scary topic that I'm not going to bring up because of YouTube. It was one of those action adventure movies that has a horrific background of why this character's going out, and to kind of hint at the topic without saying it, it was the main character has to go out and save this kid. When the movie released, like, there was a lot behind that movie in trying to be like, hey, community, get together, we have a problem in society right now and it needs to be fixed. And it was advertised as that. Lilo and Stitch was not.
No. I think there's a good way to do it. There's two ways to do it. You put it in a subtle way that is not a main point of the movie to draw attention to the topic without making the topic the movie concept. That's a good way to do it. There are ways that this is done well in movies. I think that a good nod at that is some of the dystopian genre movies that can kind of like nod to a form of corruption or issue in the world by addressing it as part of a bigger problem. You touch on a topic, you move away, it gets people thinking. Or you do, like what you said before, where it's like you make this the entire concept of the movie or media in general. You do it correctly, you do proper research on the topic, and you get the voices that need to be heard on the topic across well without doing it in a way that will age poorly or set a lot of people off because it is done poorly.
And sadly, the Lilo and Stitch live action was blind to all of that.
It's like, hey, how do we do this in the worst way possible? I know.
Yeah.
Fire the PR team.
I was gonna say the only thing of that movie that I will compliment is the CG work was very pretty to look at. If you're gonna have CG work, you also need to teach your actors how to interact with it.
Yeah. Nothing will be as bad as the Game of Thrones chains. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about with that, but as long as there is like consistency with the quality of it, it's usually not an issue. But if you just like start throwing stuff in for no reason and it sucks, people are gonna be like, hey, maybe don't.
Quality jumps are one thing. I can understand that in CGI, especially being a person who's a fan of anime and animation, especially Japanese animation, because oh gosh, the in around the 2000s, there was so many anime that were like, hey, we can cheat a little bit of the budget if we CGI in some of the assets. I can understand that. That gets off-putting really fast.
It looks so bad.
When you get to CGI, nothing is worse in the animation than poorly animated CGI anime horses. So I don't watch a lot of idol anime, but I do watch a lot of fantasy and like battle medieval or like of that fantasy era of knights and kings kind of stuff. And usually when I see the CGI, it's in the background for battles, or if an animator just doesn't know what they're trying to draw, in this case, a horse.
People are notoriously bad at making horses. Like, it is one of the things that I see that is always messed up unless it is an actual real life horse.
Comment below the worst CGI mistake you've seen.
Yeah, just send a picture of the worst horse.